We have Professor Gaurav Vallabh joining us. Gaurav Vallabh, appreciate your time. So the GST Council has approved rate rationalization with the focus on common man, labor-intensive industries, farmers, agriculture, health, and the key drivers of the economy. What, according to you, is the big takeaway here?
See, Marya, this is a citizen-centric and people-first reform. See, the entire reform agenda is having two pillars. One is the rate rationalization, and another is making GST more simple for businesses, having or making GST towards the ease of living. So, except few commodities, and I can name them: sugary drinks, number two, tobacco, number three, cigarettes, number four, alcohol. Other than these four items, Maria, all products, number four, luxury goods, except these few items, all products, whether it's a roti, chapati, paneer, ghee, hoya, bartan, footwears, apparels, specs, all items, there is a drastic reduction in their prices by the reduction in the GST rates. I just want to highlight, Maria, three, four items like hair oil, shampoos. Earlier, GST rates were 18% on these items, which
Right.
were used by everybody. Now it is at 5%. So you can expect a soap bar, which is sold right now at 30 rupees. There will be at least 3 to 4 rupees rate price reduction in that soap bar. Similarly, butter, ghee, dairy products, earlier 12%.
Yes.
Now the new GST rate is 5%.
5%.
The ACs, fridges, the white products, all these white products, there is a drastic reduction in the GST rates. So I'm saying this is a move to increase the consumption in the economy. And as per the State Bank of India, by this move, there is an additional demand of 5 lakh crore per annum in the economy. So this is a win-win situation for all states also, because there will be a more GST collection for them. They will be getting more share from that pool, and the economy is also going to rotate, because ours is a consumption-driven economy. We produce, we consume, and that is how our wheel of economy moves.
Yes.
So this is a master stroke, Maria.
Okay, you're calling it a master stroke. The focus on drugs and medicines, do you think that was a crucial sector where relief was needed for the Aam Aadmi?
Yes, especially Maria, a lot of people in our country that there are many lifestyle diseases like diabetes. So glucometer, the reduction in the GST rates, the strips for the glucometers, there is a reduction in the GST rates. So there, it's a common man's reform. It's a citizen centric reform. It's a people first reform, and it is financial reforms also. Why I call financial reforms, Maria? Because it improves the ease of living of businesses as well as the citizens. I will give you one example that it is going to boost demands in the labor centric industries of MSME, because that's why these reforms are highlighted at this particular point of time. Lot of labor centric industries are going to have a big boost in their demand, and that is how the production cycle of these labor centric industries are going to start. And last but not least, Maria, there was a very specific problem, a technical problem we used to call it as a inverted rate structure.
Hmm. Hmm.
This time,
Hmm.
that issue was also resolved under that inverted rate structure problem or inverted duty structure problem. The input GST was higher than output GST. So some component of GST become unclaimed. So that issue got resolved now. In lot many commodities, there was a in lot many products there was a inverted duty structure. That issue was also resolved. So it is a structural reform. It's a citizen centric reform. It's a people first reform. It's a financial reform, and overall, it moves the economy to at least by 0.6 to 1% of GDP. There is a positive stimulus in the economy
Okay.
by today. decision.
Okay, so you have broken it down really well, Professor Vallabh. Really appreciate your time. Let me bring in S.C. Garg, former finance secretary, who joins us on this broadcast. We also have Siddharth Zarabi joining us. Santosh Mehrotra, economist, joins us. Also, Sanchita Mukherjee. Sanchita, as someone who watches it very, very closely, I'm looking at the press release which has come in, and of course, it talks about various slabs. But do you see this actually fitting into that space of next generation reforms? And what makes it next generation?
Yes, absolutely, Marya, and it's such a pleasure to be here. This is quite a momentous decision indeed. And the way we see it is that the states and the center has worked very, very effectively in this federal structure in terms of the GST rationalization, which was so required in today's date to bring about the next wave of consumption in India. If one were to look at, I just quote the SBI report, which was also released, the SBI economist report, which states that the GST revenue loss, if albeit it might be impactful in the short term, in the long term, actually the rationalization is always a net beneficial to even the states. Not just because of the boost in consumption, but if one were to look at the rationalizations which have happened in July 2018 and post that in October 2019, one would see in the longer run, because there's a 50% revenue sharing which happens with the center and the states, plus there is a 41% tax devolution which comes to the states. So in the last 5 years, the states actually have been compensated 9.14 lakh crores, which is 63,000 crores more than what was expected and targeted because of this tax devolution, which comes to them. So similarly, in this current structure also, the biggest debate, the flash in the pan point was that whether the states will be compensated enough. But what very nicely, very succinctly put across by the SBI report is that yes, over the longer run, the states will actually be compensated well, and consumption, of course, will be given a huge shot in the arm. So this is quite a historic moment.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that the GST Council functioned in near unanimity with all the states on board with the decisions which have been taken is a signal that the state and the center has been working together. As the finance minister said, it was almost like a team which was at work here. Let me bring in Arshpreet Kardial, who is the national spokesperson of the Congress. Also joining us now is Gopal Krishna Agarwal, national spokesperson of the BJP. But before I bring in the politicians, I want to understand from you, S.C. Garg, what do you think is the big takeaway from this, this reform? The finance minister says that this will ensure stability and predictability in the GST.
See, there are many pluses. The rate structure has been racialized. So you have now effectively a two rate structure of 5% and 18%. I think that's a big move. There is across the board reduction in the effective GST rates. A lot of goods have moved from 28% to 18%, from 18% to 5%, 12% to 5%, and like that. So there is a widespread reduction of the effective GST rate. So I think that's another plus. Thirdly, I think the reforms will bring or eliminate a lot of classification disputes. Inverted duty structure has been corrected substantially. So I think there is a lot to say positive about what has been effected. I'm not convinced on the side of what the loss, whether you tell its implication or loss, the whatever name you call it.
Yes,
loss
they are
loss.
terming it as revenue implication, not revenue
Yeah,
loss
so,
at 48,000 crores.
And Revenue Secretary was right in providing the calculations that if you take 23-24 consumption and apply the new rates, this is the net impact of 48,000 crore. But what will happen now? I think they would, with so much of reduction, definitely in 25, 26, there would be loss of revenue to the states and also to the center. How soon, when this would be compensated by the higher consumption? In any case, every year there is a growth in consumption. So that consumption has to be over and above what the normal growth in consumption is. That's a dicey thing. It's very difficult to put an estimate, but it's a reality that there would be loss. Lastly, to my mind, the fact that the compensation issue has been sort of finally decided in the manner it is decided. I think this will bring clarity. Of course, the states will need to be prepared for, in the short run, at least 1 year to 2 years, to be prepared to suffer some losses.
Okay, so you are of the opinion that the states will suffer some losses. Santosh Mehrotra, your thoughts on what will be seen as a simplification or rationalization of the entire GST?
Well, simplification and rationalization hopefully will enhance coverage of the GST, because the total coverage of the GST, my understanding is currently stands at about 14 million enterprises. The fact of the matter is that there are nearly 4 times as many enterprises in the country, and they're not even registered anywhere, forget about being registered in the GST. So only the, the registered small, the registered medium are going to be captured here. And it's a good thing that this rate has been rationalized. Better late than never. It should have never been 5 rates in the first place. In fact, the fact of the matter is that there were 45 rates in place till this morning. I'm glad that this has finally happened. We were never in favor of 5 rates in the first place. We were always, independent economists were always saying that the number of rates should have been much, much less. It's happened very late, so it's good. We know that the short-term losses will be there, but one hopes that over time the losses will be recompensed because the coverage will increase. Because let's just keep this in mind, Marya, that over the 8 years that the GSTB has been in place, as a proportion of GDP, the contribution of GST relative to when we began before on the 30th of June 2017, the day before GST was implemented, we have just come to that level of contribution. In other words, as a proportion of GDP. We will keep hearing that, oh, the overall size of contribution of GST has been increasing, it's been increasing every month, and yada, yada, yada. The fact of the matter is, as a proportion of GDP, it was falling, it has only just reached that level. So the point is that we need to increase coverage. The tax to GDP ratio of the government needs to increase, because government expenditure is not increasing. Just because you're spending on infrastructure doesn't mean you're spending on health, doesn't mean you're spending on education, So there are really expenditures, you are cutting expenditure on ICDS. The fact of the matter is that you've cut corporate tax rate, you've now cut personal income tax rate, now you've cut GST. So where is the revenue going to come from? So, clearly, the government needs to think about how to rationalize expenditure as well. Make sure. Yeah.
Yes. So the point really is now that the government says that they expect industry to pass down the benefits of rate cuts eventually. So the onus is also on the industry here. But because there was near unanimity in the GST Council, Harshpreet Kardial, Centre and the states were seated together, is the point being made by Finance Minister here. And she has thanked each and every person who was part of the GST Council, which includes all the state finance ministers. So one thing is clear, there can be no politics over this. The states and centre have played equal role in ensuring that there is this festive bonanza.
Thank you for the question. First and foremost, as per the law of the land, in a federal structure, it is the duty and responsibility of the center to compensate states for the revenue loss. Now, because of the GST reform, there will be losses incurred, and the states will have to suffer a massive revenue loss of thousands of crores, which basically means that the governance will be affected. The schemes that are made for the people, the policies that are made for the people, everything would be affected. The people would be affected. So the first question here is that will there be compensation given to the states? Number one. Number two, it's a specific question for the Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson. Number two, how much would it be, and then by when would it be given? We need a timeline here. It has to be made time bound. The reason behind that is because the last time's GST dues, they have still not been paid by the center to the states. The states are still waiting for the thousands of crores which should have been paid to them back in the day, when the changes were being made in the GST. And other than that, when the VAT system was done away with, the dues of the states are still not paid by the center. And in fact, due to the flood situation, Punjab has sought around 60,000 crores, in which there's 50,000 crores of GST. And which is to be now used for the welfare of the people, to rescue them, to compensate them, etc. So, what does the center have to say on that? And number two, now that the 28% slab and the 12% slab has been done away with, we do understand that the center, we do hope rather that the center will make good use of the money that they would get through the GST.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
Arshpreet, then will you also not take credit? Because, you know, if you look at the various sectors which are likely to be impacted, it includes the farmers. Something that all of you reach out to. They are a constituency which is of necessity, political necessity to all the political parties. So when it is about these reforms, of course, the Prime Minister was leading it, the states have contributed it. So will you be also taking some credit in it?
See, we are actually the kind of party that likes to give credit, not take credit. That's for the Bharatiya Janata Party to always go.
Okay, so since all the states have been on board here, that's the question to the BJP spokesperson. Since the states have been as much a player in this decision making as the center was, of course the center was leading it, the focus is on the common man. There are a number of slab cuts, particularly to do with health sector. That's very crucial. The finance minister spoke about cement, the tax slab which has gone down in that, because that will help the middle class build homes. So it has been very clearly thought out, structured rate cuts which we are seeing here. So then, Mr. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, will you, ensure that the states come on board as much as in credit sharing as they have been in this decision making?
Marya, we have to understand that the opening remark of the finance minister on our press conference clearly appreciated the role of opposition and the whole GST Council.
Mr. Gopal Agarwal, I'll try and fix that audio of yours because there is a problem with that audio. But Mr. Gar, come in on this now, because the states are speaking about this revenue implication or revenue loss. That was one of the points which were discussed in this day-long GST Council meeting, the 56th GST Council meeting. The states have been repeatedly speaking about that they should be getting more support from the center. Do you think this will ensure that support?
See, by the way the opposition states initially stated, the kind of loss they estimated about 2 lakh crores and then raised this issue. But today it seems that they were fairly convinced that it may not be that large a loss. And secondly, everyone across the political lines know that any reduction in GST cannot be opposed because it affects the consumers, and anything which is seen to be opposed to the consumer's interest is vote negative, so to say. And some of the vibes which I heard from the opposition state's finance minister after the meeting also suggested that they have for the time being agreed with a strategy that let us watch
Yes.
what kind of results come in, is there a real loss, and the issues can be raised later. So I don't think at this moment the compensation issue should be put into the front too much. Let us implement the decisions which have been taken, watch if there is loss. Of course, the states, especially the opposition states, cannot leave it. But better data arrives, better information becomes available, and then raise it to get it compensation.
Yes, so what's evident here, Gopal Agarwal come in now, is as the finance minister highlighted, that this is about the spotlight is on the common man, the spotlight is on the middle class, and also on the farmers.
Marya ji, we have to understand that initially people, some spokesperson had a reservation about credit going to the state. Finance minister in her opening remark clearly mentioned about the federal structure of the GST Council, and she thanked all the states, participant states, for this effort. Second thing is, it is the leadership of Prime Minister which has given this vision, and he has been pushing, and she said that it is not just today or tomorrow, yesterday. It has been long time where the finance ministry under the leadership and the guidance of the Prime Minister had been doing for this working. And it is not only reduction of rates. The important thing has been mentioned that there is a structural reforms on the GST, whether it's the process reforms, classification confusion, inverted duty structure, faster refunds, lowering of rates. So it is not only lowering of rates. This is very important. The important thing is ease of doing business has been the hallmark of this GST mega reforms. Our economy is performing well, but the next steps of which the Prime Minister announced from the rampant of Red Fort is that big ticket reforms for boosting our economy is there. And even about the revenue loss has been explained that continuously when we have reduced taxes, whether the corporate tax, individual tax, or GST rate, when GST came in 2016, the revenue neutral rate was announced to be was expected by the Arvind Subramaniam committee to be 15.5%. But over the last 2-3 years, the average revenue was reduced to 11.6%. But still, the total revenue collection from for the government has been continuously increasing. It had crossed at one stage more than 2 lakh crores per month. So the thing is better compliance, better blocking of leakages, lowering of taxes, and even anti-profiteering was introduced earlier, but it was removed because government has respected compliances from the corporate sector. That trust about the corporate sector is also very important, which is evident in this GST reforms. One important point I would also like to say, which had been mentioned by the finance minister, was earlier Congress may try to take credit of some of the things, but she said that GST was on cards for a long time, but UP and Congress were not successful in implementing this GST was because it was states did not have faith on the center's ability to pay for compensations and to streamline the whole GST reforms, and whether there will be buoyancy, whether there will be more compliances. But now over more than 9 years, the states and the center has found that the having faith on the tax corporate sector or individual or people in the country has paid dividend. So this is also very important.
Whether this reform will have a multiplier effect on the Indian economy and can propel India's GDP beyond 8%, that remains to be seen. But it is certainly being called a festive bonanza for Indian consumers and a strategic boost for the economy. Can that be really that strategic boost, that booster dose that Indian economy was looking for, Sanchita? And has it come at the right time? Industry and consumers alike will stand to benefit from what is being seen as a very, very progressive step. S.E. Garg, because a lot of reactions have started coming in, particularly from the industry. They are calling it landmark reform. Of course, the Aam Aadmi reactions will come in tomorrow morning. But, to make housing affordable, to ensure that construction becomes affordable, these are steps in the right direction. And the reduction of GST on critical construction material like the cement and steel in particular from 28% to 18% is the step in the right direction.
Of course, these things will matter, especially the 28% items like cement and others being brought to 18%. That will give a kind of boost to the construction. But it's not that easy. The economy doesn't sort of function only on a tax element, and to say that this will give a big boost and the kind of multiplier effects. This is not the way the economy actually works. There are a lot of factors which come into play. How is the general conditions of demand in the economy?
Yes.
How is the export demand going into the every tax giveaway doesn't result into the increase in taxes. What happened, for example, on the income tax side, we saw when the big concession of 1 lakh crore that raising the exemption limit to 12 lakh. And now we're seeing that actually the income tax collections are declining very fast. In July, the income tax collection for the month are 30% down. In the month of July, the total GTR, the gross tax receipts, are about 11% down. So it's not a kind of matter of fact or an automatic mechanism by which it happens. I think we'll have to watch. There are many factors which we need to take into account. There's a lot of essential consumption items which are there from 12% to 5%.
Yes.
Their demand doesn't really matter on whether it's taxed at 5% or 12%. People need to make those consumption. That is not elastic in terms of taxes, but there is elasticity connected with automobiles and air conditioners and things like that. If they become cheaper,
Okay.
many new ones tend to buy. So it's a more complex. I don't think anybody can put any number about the growth in stimulus or the tax stimulus on this.
Yes, and we'll wait and see how markets react in the morning when they open. Sanchita, let's talk about the health sector and the insurance benefits. The health insurance under the nil GST bracket, the insurance sector reactions which have come in, they are saying that it's landmark move because it's about ensuring that the health care protection becomes affordable. This is also coming at a time when medical inflation is very, very high. If you go to a private hospital, the amount that you have to spend on any kind of treatment is steep.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought up this point because I'm a part of the financial services industry, and it's indeed a landmark move because if one were to see the penetration in India, life insurance as an industry, the penetration in India of financial year 24 is a very dismal 2.8%, right? Health insurance is close to around 15 to 20%. It's growing by the day, but nevertheless, it's one of the lowest in the world. So I think removing GST for life insurance policies, health insurance policies, all your ULIPs, endowment, reinsurances, I think it's a fabulous move because it really, really incentivizes the common man to get himself or herself insured. It is indeed a landmark move.
Okay, Arshpreet, come in.
Thank you. See, I had asked very specific questions to the Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson. However, he chose not to answer them. Maybe the Bharatiya Janata Party does not have the answers to these questions. First is, Would compensation be given to the states for revenue loss or not? No answer. In the next segment, I do hope the BJP spokesperson would give it. Number two, if yes, if you are willing to pay the compensation, how much would it be? And by when would it be given? There has to be a timeline to it. And the reason as to why I'm asking this question is because per year, the revenue loss to the states would be ranging from 85,000 crores to 2 lakh crores per year. And that would basically mean the common man would be suffering. These funds, this money is to be used for the welfare of the people, for the governance. And if it's going to be reduced and there's going to be a revenue loss and people are going to be suffering, people are going to be impacted, you ought to tell us what plan do you have to ensure that they don't suffer. Number two, there are a couple of questions about compensation cess as well. Why has it not been increased? Why does the Bharatiya Janata Party not want to increase the compensation cess? And other than that, there are a couple of concerns of the states, which is one, vis-a-vis the delay in GST compensation, vis-a-vis the transparency.
Harshpreet, I want to speak about the Trinamool Congress handle, which has just put out a reaction that has come in, directly from Mamata Banerjee. They are saying, and I would ask the producer to put that on screen as well, a victory for common people, a victory wrested from a tone-deaf regime that only listens when forced. From day one, Srimati Mamata Banerjee warned the finance minister that taxing insurance premiums was cruel, anti-people, and would deter families from securing their future. And then she says that the rollback proves that BJP only acts when cornered.
Ji. Now, this goes on to suggest how the Bharatiya Janata Party had to be pressurized. The people of India have been mounting pressure on the Bharatiya Janata Party's government. The opposition has been mounting pressure on the Bharatiya Janata Party's government because of the way our economy has been suffering, because of the inflation that has been there vis-a-vis dal, dahi, doodh, paneer and whatnot, diesel, petrol. And number three, other than that, highest unemployment rate in the last 45 years. In these circumstances, in this situation, it is very difficult for a person to pay so much tax. And therefore, after all the criticism, after all the pressure, the Bharatiya Janata Party center government finally succumbed. Yet, there are a couple of things that the BJP needs to answer. And I was talking of a couple of concerns as well, which is one, that transparency ought to be maintained in the GST settlement process, revenue neutrality, and benefits of rate rationalization should not just go to a few companies, but also to the common people. And other than that, the credit that the BJP spokesperson was talking about, we want to tell you this one thing, that we do not want credit. We do not seek credit like
Home
the BJP
Minister
does.
Amit Shah has now tweeted.
Just one last line, Mariam. Just one last line. So we do not seek credit. It is the Bharatiya Janata Party's job. It is the Bharatiya Janata Party's duty, because even when they copied 30 plus schemes from us, Make in India,
now coming in from all the ministers. Harshpreet, let me just quickly read that, and I'm coming back to you, Harshpreet. I'm coming back to you. I'm coming back to you. You can keep the credit then, because finance minister says that the states had an equal role. So she has already credited, and she's ready to share the credit. So Amit Shah, Home Minister, has said this historic decision of GST rate cuts and process reforms will bring huge relief to the poor and middle class, while also supporting farmers, MSMEs, women and youth. By simplifying the system and reducing the burden on common citizens, these reforms will not only ensure ease of living, but also give a big boost to ease of doing business, especially for small traders and entrepreneurs. Let's focus on MSMEs. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, how much of relief will it bring into this very crucial sector that is MSME?
Ajay, we have to understand one thing is very clear, that MSME were benefiting from GST because of input tax credit, ease of compliances, online registration, filing of returns, then refund, automatic refund, etc. One nation, one market. They were benefiting out of this whole one nation, one tax issue. Even the logistic sector was logistic cost was getting reduced due to reduced time of transportation, etc. So the ultimately it is the MSME and manufacturing sector which had been was getting maximum benefit under the GST. Now further reduction in prices will definitely bring the cost of the mercantilized costs to the common man, and it will increase demand. Surely it will also, the focus is also on ease of doing business and increasing consumption demand in the economy. So the thing is, it's three-way which will benefit manufacturing and MSME. One is reduction in compliances, simplification in compliances, simplification in processes. More inverted duty structure was one thing which MSME had been facing a lot of problems in, that where the finished product was at tax at a lower GST rate, and the intermediaries were being taxed at a higher rate, so they could not claim inverted duty structure, IT income, this input tax credit. So that is also has been rationalized. So MSME will be benefited because of reduction in construction in cement, etc. And MSME has been an important hallmark because at the level of free trade disruptions at the global level also have caused certain problems for MSME. This will
Okay.
compensate
I
them
have just enough time for Mr. Garg, and then we wrap up this coverage. Mr. Garg, what will this GST next generation reforms do to the Indian economy? What's your take on short-term to long-term gains?
So, Marya, the GST reforms undertaken are long overdue. They are well directed. I think most of the reforms are well conceived, and this will make the GST structure, implementation, classification very much more smooth than it is. So that's a very good positive. It will definitely give some boost to the consumption demand, especially for the middle class goods kind of thing. That's also a positive. It will also lead to the loss of revenue, especially the states will suffer. How much is for us to know, but I don't think there would be a very material big impact on the economic growth in the next 1 to 2 years.
All right.
That's my take.
Mr. Garg, thank you so much for joining us. Arshpreet Kardiala and Gopal Krishna Agarwal.